Hello again. My name's Kane Atkinson. I'm a disciple of Jesus. And have you got commitment issues? We're going to solve them today on the Discipleship Equation. The Discipleship Equation is not complicated, it's not rocket science. When we think about living in our faith out in the arena of the public world and being bold and being brazen and say, hey, I'm a disciple of Jesus and you ought to be too. Reaching out, it's all integral, it's all part of our faith, it's all connected. We can overcomplicate it though. But is it complicated? No, it is not. Just two things: commitment and love produce a disciple of Jesus. Commitment to the cause of Christ and a deep, unfettered love for that cause and for that man, the Lord Jesus, and for our brothers and sisters and in the lost sheep of God all over the creation. Discipleship is that sort of devotion to Luke chapter 19 and verse 10, to seek and to save the lost. Why? Because we were once lost, but man, now we're found. That's what the discipleship equation is. Commitment and love equals discipleship. So today we're talking about commitment. Last time we finished up our discussion about love, sort of a heart inclination, our heart being pointed toward God and toward the people that are around us, and not just kind of inwardly focused, but pointed outward. That is a key piece of the puzzle. But now we're talking about the commitment, which the love is sort of the fuel to the fire, and the commitment is what keeps us on the track. So they're next door neighbors, they're best friends, they're buddies, they get along, that love and that commitment, and eventually they produce discipleship, a relationship with God and with the people that we're around where they can say, maybe that person has something going on that I want to be a part of. Commitment begins with the determination in the heart to choose Jesus, to choose his way, the way that he lived, over our own way. That's where it begins. That's the start of faith. Most of you guys understand that. And then it culminates in an unfettering, unwavering loyalty to his cause. So commitment means prioritizing Christ over everything, which we call cross-bearing. Matthew 16 and verse 24. We hear that verse, you must take up your cross daily and follow him if you want to be a disciple of his. That's Matthew 16 and verse 24. But we hear that, and it's on, it's on coffee mugs, it's on home decor and things like that. And we think of it as, Matthew 16:24, I've got a bad coworker, or I hate doing the dishes, that's just my cross to bear. Not really the thrust of that verse, though. Those things are tied up in it, but the thrust is, hey, I am a Christian now. That is my first priority. That is my first identifier. When I'm at home, yes, I'm a part of that family, but before that, I belong to Jesus. When I'm at work, yes, maybe I am a service person. Maybe I am an engineer. Maybe I'm a lawyer. Maybe I'm a doctor. Maybe I'm a clerk. Maybe, etc. Whatever you are, that may be an identifier, but before that, when you're at the job, you're a minister for Jesus. That is Matthew 16:24. You're bearing your cross, and that means sacrificing up to anything using sound wisdom and discretion. Of course, that's the commitment that we're talking about. So when we're talking about it, we're talking about getting commitment, getting it. What do you mean? I mean, some people just don't get it, and that's probably a result of not wanting to get it, or maybe just some kind of weak, watered down teaching about who Jesus was. We want the Jesus, the smiling, the friendly Jesus, the loving, the quote unquote first century hippie. That's kind of the Jesus we want sometimes, and this is kind of the delineation between someone who's a fan of Jesus and likes the idea of Jesus versus someone who's a committed disciple and really gets Jesus and the commitment to him and what that means and what it looks like. I want to draw your mind back. If you are a Christian, then you have been baptized. That's what Romans 6 verse 3 through verse 5 kind of describes as, if you want to be united with Christ, then you need to be baptized. It's a necessary step in your walk. It is required to enter into Christ. That's Romans 6 verse 3 through 5. And so I want to draw your mind back to that verse. Those verses rather, because that is an example of a pattern that is meant to continue in our faith. Romans 6 verses 3 through 5, if someone's truly converted on some level, then you understood Jesus' commitment and what that was. See, Jesus wasn't just committed in theory, right? I am this faith. I identify as this religion. If you give me a checkbox, Christian or Jewish or other or whatever, Jesus was dedicated to sharing himself with other people and starting the Christian movement. So Romans 6, verse 3 through verse 5 describes someone dying with Christ and being raised again in the waters of baptism. Well, that is a submission, an act of submission. As we're allowing someone to dunk us under that water, we've decided I'm going to take an action. I'm going to put myself in this position to where my faith will be obvious. Now, you can see where I'm going with this. A committed disciple continues to take those sorts of actions where they take their faith and they take it outside themselves and they take it into the world that they're a part of. Again, that's who Jesus was, and he did that even up to the point of his own death. That's the point of Romans 6 that we understand. And when we sign up, when we're baptized, we sign up for that. That's our commitment to Jesus, and it's meant to grow and it's meant to continue to that mission, the mission that he had, Luke 19 and verse 10, which was, as we said again and again and again, to seek and to save the lost. That's why he came to earth. And that's the whole point of the Jesus movement. That's the whole point of Christianity. And that's the whole point of the faith, that if you're listening to this and you're a Christian, that you are a part of, to seek and to save the lost. And there's a lot of things that present themselves to distract us. Case in point, right here. There's a ton of other things. We've got our little pocket devices. We can literally scroll down our feed in an endless just volley of distractions, and we can go down so many rabbit holes. We can find ourselves engaging in different forms of media to distract us, and hobbies and things like that. And we can get off the path and forget that Jesus is meant to go with us everywhere. So a disciple is kept steady and consistent in their effort to do what Jesus did because they are committed to him. That's the inward attitude, and that pours out to staying on track. Former priorities, they become just that. The former priorities of life, making money, getting approval from people, they become just that. They become former priorities. They become secondary. Not saying they have to go away, but they become secondary. And it's hard to part with those sometimes. But Jesus said if you seek first the kingdom of God, all these things will be added to you. So all the things that you really need, God knows them, just like he knows every single hair on the top of your head. And he knows when you're hungry. He knows when you're thirsty. He knows when you're tired. He knows when you just need a pat on the back. And he'll give it to you in due time. He will give you exactly what you need to keep trucking on that mission. All we got to do is just let go of the control and trust his plan. So that's our mission. But why should we be a part of this mission? I'll tell you, our purpose, despite what everything in our body might be telling us, is not to glorify and gratify ourselves. I've gone down that rabbit hole myself plenty of times, even after becoming a Christian, of trying to find personal glory and personal gratification, and most of you know how that ends. In fact, I'll say all of you know how that ends. It's just sort of chasing the dragon. But ironically, when we embrace this, we become gratified in a new and a deeper way versus chasing this dragon of the public approval and the satisfaction that comes with money and physical things and all that. We choose a deeper sort of satisfaction that comes all the way down to our soul and our purpose in life. Luke 14 and verse 11, those who humble themselves will be exalted. So it's kind of ironic when we try to exalt ourselves and put ourselves above God in our priority list, it just never happens. We're never exalted. We're never satisfied. We never feel that sense of real accomplishment, fulfillment. We never feel that. But when we humble ourselves and we start pouring ourselves out to other people, that's when our faith is supercharged, and that's when we can find ourselves ending up on fire for the cause of Christ in our commitment to him. So this is the nitty and gritty. This is, man, I don't feel like it, but it does not matter. Man, I wish I could have this instead, but that does not matter. I am committed to Jesus. I know he's going to take me where I need to go, and I trust him even if I can't see it right in front of me right now. That's commitment. So next time, what does a life that's committed to the cause of Christ really look like? This time we talked about a lot of theory, a lot of broad principles, broad strokes. Next time we're going to talk about the committed life of a Christian, the traits that we can observe. Jesus said you'll know them by their fruits. We're going to talk about some of the fruits of commitment. And we're going to talk about, again, not in theory, but in action. What does commitment look like? Sometimes we, from the pulpit, I'm guilty of doing this, and in Bible class, pay lip service to this commitment, but we don't actually follow through with it. No more of that. We are disciples of Jesus, and that means we do what he did and we walk like he walked. Till then, a meditation. Is your life committed to Jesus Christ? When did you do it? Do you remember the day that you placed your commitment to Jesus? Remember, that happens in your baptism. If you haven't been baptized Jesus' way, you ought to try it. It's a good thing. And it starts a pattern of commitment to doing it his way, doing our life his way. Does your religious life get placed on a to-do list if you have committed to Jesus? Does your religious life, is it just an item on a list on Wednesday and Sunday or whenever? Or is your walk with Christ through every single avenue that you have in your existence? That's the question. Where is Jesus invited to in your life, and how committed are you to keeping him there? Because it's our option. We have a part in this relationship too, to keep inviting Jesus to be part of our life. So there's your meditation. Take some time to think about those things. I know it can be hard, but I promised you nitty and gritty in this one last episode. Feel free to watch any of the previous episodes. I'd like it if you could give this a like or share this with your feed, because we're trying to spread the message of Jesus wherever we go. That's the mission. And while you're doing that, if you want to reach out to me and you need some encouragement or some help or have some questions, maybe you're not a Christian, you want to know, how can I start? Where do I even start? I don't understand the Bible. It's confusing, etc., etc. Look, I'm here to help you. I'm here to help you. Jesus was a movement maker. You can be too. It takes little steps in faith. It becomes great leaps altogether. So let me know if I can help you in any way in your walk as a disciple and a disciple maker. And if you want to know more about Jesus, write me, Kane Atkinson at Kettering.church or Kane.Atkinson@yahoo.com. I will reach back to you. Until next time, go out there and make some disciples. It's not rocket science. I hope that you were blessed today. I hope you're blessed tomorrow, and I hope God goes with you every day that you got. I will see you next time, next Tuesday, on the Discipleship Equation.